I am Joe. I am here to help guide our discussion today. This is Group B, and I've got a few others here to help me along. Tania is our DCSC lead.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Tania.
Hi, Carla.
Sherry is our scribe.
I'm going to try to write and type fast.
And our chat monitor is Lois.
Good morning.
All right. So feel free to use the chat function. Feel free to use the reactions function if you need to raise a hand, or you can just raise your hand physically. I'll try and find it here. As we get going, we're going to ask some questions that are going to hopefully spark some ongoing discussion for us. So let's go ahead and put up the first poll question that we have. If you have shut down your Slido, please do open that back up. And the first question we have is, what are the main needs of your organization? So go ahead and use Slido and put that in there. We'll give it a minute or two here for those responses to filter in.
And if I could just note, you all may need to select Group B when you go to the Slido app. I don't know, mine defaulted to a different group.
Yeah, there is a drop down at the top.
Yes.
If you're on a phone, it'll be at the top of your phone screen.
Yeah, you should. If you're in a browser, you're going to see that at the top left in the browser. So Group B, B for best group. All right, we've got a test. There we go. All right, so we're starting to see some submissions here. Volunteers seems to be a big one.
Lizzie. Come on, baby. Off the table. Come on, darling.
Speaking of cats from earlier, right?
We hope that's what it is.
Remember to mute your mic.
Get down.
That's me crash the party. That's okay.
Not having orange juice and donuts, sweetie.
Okay. Looks like we've got, let's see, 13 responses in there out of our 30. So about half of us have responded so far. So please still submit your response in there. Two that are rising to the top: hybrid meetings and volunteers. Someone that submitted volunteers, help me understand a little bit about what the main need is there. Do you need more volunteers, training for volunteers? What are what's the need around volunteers?
I can tell you, we have some great volunteers for our library, but we have a lot of officers, and this year we seem to have working very hard this year, and I think not many people, everybody's worn out. We don't have enough people to actually run.
What's the main needs of your organization?
Okay.
Before you type anything, I would say it's either attracting volunteers or just attracting and keeping members.
All right. If you're not actively participating in share, please do mute your microphone. Carla, do you want to expand on that some more?
Yes, we have plenty of volunteers to do things like translating, transcribing, and working in our library. But running for the offices, for instance, our vice president's position is going to be open this year, and the secretary, and we haven't had very many people to come forward to want to do that.
Okay, so it sounds like
much room.
Development and growth, succession planning of volunteers, making sure you have a pipeline of
development. I think one thing that might help is to break down some of the jobs a little bit more. Because I think people are afraid of kind of like an open-ended
somebody has increasing our membership.
Yeah. So if it's more, the jobs are broken down so they know that I've got to worry about this one thing, and that's going to take X amount of time, a week or a month.
Right. We try to provide a committee for each officer so that they won't feel overwhelmed, because we have a really large organization, and I don't want anybody to feel alone. So but we still have the problem. You're right. Breaking it down does help.
That just
Our bylaws
in person and
Okay.
online.
Oh, both? Okay.
That would be a hybrid.
If I could put y'all all on hold for 1 second. Barbara,
Okay.
Barbara, if you could put your microphone on mute, please. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks, Matt. Okay, John, I think you were jumping in there.
Well, our bylaws call for committees, but the committee structures have pretty much died away, and it's been left, as somebody said, we just have a few officers kind of carrying the load. And when you go to a volunteer and say, well, would you like to run for this office? They're like, no way, I don't want to take that on. So we need to, as somebody was saying, we need to broaden the load, get people involved more in smaller jobs where they can contribute.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? How big are some of these groups? Ours is quite small.
Okay, let's have everyone submit that to the chat if you want to submit size of your group so we can keep the discussion going here. I see a hand up. Sherry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've got a very small little group, and what we've decided to do is we do have job descriptions placed out there so people can know what each office is all about. But then we decided also to say, okay, if you want to come shadow somebody for a while and learn how to do that job, that has helped because they've seen what it is and how the board supports each other. And then they think, oh, I can do this. And then people can move on and get out of the board that they've been stuck on for 10 years and let somebody else take over. So that might be something to consider, is having somebody shadow or follow along for a while.
Yep. Anyone else on the volunteer question? Michael.
Yes, we're in a retirement area. So we also have a challenge with the average age of our members because many of them are in advanced ages. They have been members for a long time. So I grouped membership and volunteers together because we need a bigger, kind of a little bit younger pipeline to kind of refresh and keep the organization active.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Any other, anything else to share that's different from what we've heard on the volunteer issue?
Well, in our society, we have a cadre of maybe a dozen volunteers who work on a digitization project, and the others are not involved in that. And I'm concerned that that group almost has become a clique. So one of the things I'm trying to figure out is how to get others to commit to 2 hours a week of volunteering.
All right, great. So it sounds like succession planning. It sounds like some engagement opportunity as well in terms of potential needs and resources. The other large item on their other main need is hybrid meetings. Does somebody want to share, somebody that inputted hybrid meetings, what is the main need there? Is it technical support? Is it design of the event? Anyone like to share?
I'll share. I'll start if you'd like.
Who do you want, Joe?
Margaret, you start, and then we'll go to.
Yeah, I put post-pandemic processes, and one of the things my Mount Vernon Genealogical Society is looking at is the technology that we would need for hybrid meetings. What's available? What's recommended? We've been blessed that several of us are members of other organizations who have teachers involved, and the teachers have been talking about using OWL or using something else for these 360 cameras, but we don't know which one's better, which one's worse, because the price range is all over the place as well. So if there were something that where somebody who knows technology a little bit better than I do, or the other members of my organization, that would be a useful thing for us to be able to see. Also, would we need microphones? Would we need, I don't know, what would we need to do a hybrid meeting?
Okay.
And so we're off researching, but we don't know.
Okay, great. Let's see, Jan, Allen.
Okay, we have been meeting by Zoom since a year ago, June. We didn't meet in March, April, or May. Now that we're starting to look at perhaps in another 6 months, we'll be able to meet face to face. I have an interesting quandary because I have some members who only want to meet by Zoom and other members who dropped out saying, let us know when you meet face to face. As someone who speaks a lot nationally, I do not want to have a speaker come into the meeting and find half of them are on a computer watching it by Zoom. It's very disconcerting as a speaker. And we always have outside speakers for every single one of our meetings, including Zoom. And I'm talking internationally. I mean, we've had people from England, from Israel, all over speak to us by Zoom. Zoom has been great. But I also know that we have lost, we're down to 149. We had been at the beginning of Zoom 169 before before the pandemic. And the year before that, we were at 189 and we had been growing every single year. The pandemic was the first time we dropped down. So I don't want to end up having it both by Zoom and in person, because it's not fair to bring the speaker in and have 5 people in the audience because everybody can watch it by Zoom. So I'm in a torn situation of how do I keep the members who only want it by Zoom, and how do I keep the members who come back when we go face to face?
Okay. So strategy around reintroduction of some live sessions, and how do you handle that with the digital only? So I saw, Katie, you had your hand up earlier.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Let's go.
Oh, there's Katie and Kate. Sorry.
Let's go Katie first, and then we'll go to Kate.
Our problem is trying to get things recorded in the technology and what's the best equipment for that. We have members who will not be coming in because of the pandemic, and other members now who are international who want to see things on a recorded basis for a set time. So getting the technology to record things and still have them available for members to watch later within a time frame.
Okay. Let's go Kate, and then I think Harry after that. I think Harry had a question. So Kate.
So we've actually been fortunate in a way with the pandemic that we've been able to get some bigger name speakers because we've been having everything via Zoom. So we're having Amy Johnson-Crow in August. We had Cindy Engel this January. So because of that, we've actually been able to grow our membership, I think, more than some other organizations during the pandemic. So we have a lot of people out across the US now, and we're based in Pittsburgh. So I think our challenge is trying to still actively engage those members once we do transition to in-person meetings with a hybrid model. But I think, like a lot of the other people here, we have concerns about how that would work, what type of technology we would use, and really how would we be able to incorporate people that are viewing virtually with the people that are actually in person, and sort of have it be seamless in a way so it doesn't seem stilted or odd. So I think it's just trying to transition to that hybrid model and have it go really well, and what that would look like. And because that's something that we would really like to do to still engage all of our membership.
Yep. Okay, time for one more comment. Harry, I saw your hand up earlier. Do you have anything you can share there?
Yes, sir. Here in Colorado, we've gained new members while we've been on Zoom, and I'm afraid we'll end up losing them if we don't go to some kind of a hybrid model where they can watch online and our members, our local members, can gather in person. So that's our challenge, is to keep those out-of-staters involved.
Okay.
I have a question very quick.
Sure.
We have a rental space. We do not own our own place, and we share. It's a lodge, a Masonic lodge, and we would have to rely on their Wi-Fi, which is sort of iffy as it is, because it's an older building. And we were concerned with doing a hybrid because a bunch of our members have retired and gone out of state, but they're still members, and they really enjoyed being able to come into Zoom since last April. We've been on Zoom since April of last year. So it's like, that's our big concern. And we don't have a lot of money to spend on expensive equipment, and we can't leave it there because the lodge is used by 100 other groups.
Yep.
So
Okay.
that's our problem.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, everyone. In the interest of time here, we're going to move forward to our second question. If we could get that posted, we're going to still be in Slido here, so navigate back to there. What are the key issues related to technology as we look forward to a post-pandemic world? Now, we spoke a little bit about this with hybrid meetings, so feel free to share more specifically about technology around hybrid meetings, or in general, what are the issues related to technology outside of the meeting? So it could be website, could be collaboration outside of meetings. Okay. All right, getting some submissions here.
Question number 2 is not showing up for me. This is Annie Mabry.
Okay. We'll have our production team try and troubleshoot you there. Yeah, try to refresh the page if you can. Okay, so we're getting some good submissions there. Hybrid meeting design, I think we spoke a lot about that in the first question. So, you know, if there's something new that someone would like to share there outside of what we've spoken about before, which is around, you know, best practices with technology, engagement between the in-person and virtual crowd, and then technology requirements as well. Collaboration, so that one is getting some traction there. Does somebody want to expand a little bit about collaboration? Is that between members or perhaps between volunteers? Somebody willing to share?
Yeah, that was my choice. And what I'm trying to basically say is that our members like to get together in person because that's where they make connections and talk with each other about what they're doing. But we find that it's difficult to do that, obviously, in a Zoom you know, meeting when you have a speaker. So we kind of are, I'm finding that we're kind of splitting. We're having Zoom speaking and something else to collaborate.
Okay, so perhaps some sort of tool.
Yes.
That could be provided to help facilitate that. It sounds like there's something in the works soon to be launched with the Higher Logic community that might help some of that. Georgianne. Oh, you're on mute there.
There we go. One of the things we've been doing, because we've had the same issue, we've been meeting via Zoom or GoToWebinar since I think last April, is we've started to tell members or attendees, they don't have to be members, that once the speaker signs off, they're welcome to stay. And we just have a Gab Fest. We talk about what we're researching, different things. Sometimes we talk about what the speaker said. While it's not quite as nice as an in-person meeting, it has allowed us to continue that social aspect of our meetings. So it's not just signing on, listening to a speaker and signing off.
Okay, great, thank you. John.
I was going to say, we tried using a private Facebook members group as a way to help people to be able to collaborate among themselves, but we found there's a lot of resistance. Not many people have joined it. I think there's a lot of suspicion still about Facebook as a company and such. I'm not sure of all the reasons, but it'd be nice to have a tool that's similar to that people can use to easily communicate and share issues, successes, that sort of thing.
Great, thank you. All right, any other comments? Anyone like to expand on any other submissions here? Okay.
I have a question quickly. Where would we go to find tech information about, like what would we need to have a hybrid system? I mean, do we need a standing camera on a tripod and a big screen in the background to broadcast it out for people to aim a camera at, as opposed to looking right at maybe a live speaker? Or do we have a speaker who's out of state broadcast onto a screen and then somehow photograph the screen for people that can't join us? I mean, it's like all these things we have to work out. It's beyond our tech abilities at the moment.
Sure. So it sounds like an opportunity there to provide some of that best practice in addition to the actual technology itself. Any other comments around technology? Cost? I think that one is self-explanatory. Anyone
Joe,
want to share? Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
That's the one I was hoping we could expand on, just so I could hear from our member organizations sort of where the cost issue hits. Is it at a certain dollar amount per month? Is it total investment over a year? Is it total investment into the technology?
Sure. All right. So cost.
This is Mike Oden. I was just going to say we're fortunate in that we use our state organization. We have a free service by being a member of our state organization that we use their GoToWebinar and GoToMeeting services for our speakers. And they provide a narrator and they provide all the technical expertise that we basically need. And then we have local support from our genealogy interest group members to do all of our gig activities. And we pay as a society for their license fees.
Yep, great. Anyone else on that issue on cost? Anyone have anything to share on how they've helped mitigate added technology cost through the pandemic?
I'd like to say for Vermilion Genealogy Society, we're very small and we're a branch group of the Minnesota Genealogical Society. So we do have benefits of using the GoToMeeting software and library space and meeting space and so forth. But, we're currently charging $20 a year for membership dues, which is pretty minimal, I think. But over half of our budget goes to our membership in the parent organization and our website. So we're really, these smaller organizations just don't have any wiggle room. So we're really fortunate when we do have that partner agreement. And maybe that's a place to continue to explore.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's jump to our third poll question. So back in Slido, this question is, what are the hot topics you discuss at your organization's board or staff meetings? So feel free to enter your topics, the hot topics there from your meetings, and then we'll have a discussion about those. Okay, so some discussion around succession planning, volunteers, who will run for office. Okay, so we're seeing some commonality there around volunteers. Okay, so volunteers, we've seen that come up a few times where succession planning, just finding new volunteers, finding that next generation of volunteers. Anyone have something to share around their experience with volunteers and what you talk about, what keeps you up at night during
in a prior life, I was in an organization that had I think it was Board Source, a subscription, and we found that their resources here in Dallas, Texas, were just fantastic. I don't recall the fees, but we used a Board Source office here in Dallas and sat down with them, and they went through many of the issues that we're discussing in this meeting. And I noticed that somewhere in reading for this, that NGS listed BoardSource as a resource. I'd like to know more about that.
That's right. Matt, you want to share?
Sure. NGS has developed a relationship with BoardSource. I've been a member of BoardSource and am a BoardSource certified consultant myself. And right now on the NGS Society and Organization Management web pages, you can find links to many of the BoardSource 101 documents. We'll be adding to that collection over time. So you can certainly reach into the website and grab that. Your account administrator has easiest access into that. Eventually, we'll be able to make that available to you directly as the delegates. But right now, your account administrator, I believe, can get access to that. If you can't, let me know and I'll give you access to it. In addition to that, if there are BoardSource resources that you would like to have that aren't available on our website, we certainly encourage your organizations to join BoardSource if it's an affordable solution for you. That's certainly an option. And then you can always reach out to me if it's something you just need a specific piece of information, because I'm a BoardSource member. I can usually find the information and help steer you in the right direction without breaking any copyright rules for their materials.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Anything else? Anyone else have anything to share on volunteers outside of what we've spoken a little bit about? Anything new there?
I find that if I go directly to a person as the president, and I have been the founding president, nobody will take over. It's going on 17 years, so it's getting old. But we are able to bring new people on the board. But I find that if I specifically either speak to them in person when we were having in-person meetings or call them, I can get a positive. If I just put out a blast that we need board members or put it in our newsletter, we get no response. So the personal touch seems to have, at least in our respect, some positive results.
Yeah, that direct outreach, is that shared by others? Have they experienced that where the direct outreach is more successful? Okay, good.
Yeah, that's the only way it works at ours. And we have actual board limits. No one can stay a president more than 3 terms, which is 6 years, and they have to go off the board for at least a year before they can come back on. But people in our group have become so happy with who runs the show, we all just keep recycling each other's positions because no one wants to step up and say, oh, it's just, I don't want to do it. So like I was treasurer for 7.5 years, and then they had to call me and say, can you be president? Right in the middle of a pandemic. I'd never been president. So here I am, first timer.
Jeff, you have your hand up there.
Yes, our organization is kind of virtual. We have members from all over the country, and to get people on the board is difficult. It's kind of falls back to the members that are located near our headquarters in Cleveland, Ohio. So it's very difficult, even though we make requests to our members to join us. We haven't had much success.
Thank you. We've got a few minutes here, so I do want to jump into the budget topic here. I'd like to hear a little bit more detail about budget. I'm sure it's a 2-part issue, revenue and expense. Anyone want to share specifics about their budget? John, I see a hand up there.
Yeah, in the Grand Prairie Society some years ago, we had an officer who was very active in PTA, and she got us into doing fundraisers at local restaurants. And we haven't had to host a seminar or anything like that to raise money since then. Our monthly fundraisers are great social interaction among our members. That's our only fundraiser. It gets us together socially. Obviously, it does not serve our distance members, but we just don't have a budget issue since we started doing that.
Anyone else? Budget.
We look at outside revenue sources because dues will not do it alone. And up until last year, when Amazon changed, we were an Amazon affiliate. So we would ask people to go to our website, click on the Amazon link, and we would get a percentage. For some reason, Amazon canceled 5 Jewish genealogical societies the same month, saying we were in violation. We have no idea what we did. By asking what we did, we were told that was our one question. We were also advised we might want to get our attorneys. I wasn't going to spend for an attorney for this. So now we belong to Amazon Smile, which gives you 50 cents. We were getting hundreds of dollars every month beforehand because the local library, of which I'm on their board as well, we would purchase from the Friends, we would purchase the books for the library and we'd go through our Amazon account. So we would get that. Whether that was part of the problem, I don't know. So our outside revenue now is really like 50 cents. So we're lucky we get $12 a quarter now, where we used to get a couple $100 a month. Plus we also are out here, it's called Ralph's. It's part of Kroger's grocery chain. And if you sign up as an affiliate, every time you go to Ralph's, you give them the number, you show them your little card number, and you get a percentage back. So our outside revenue now is predominantly from Ralph's, nowhere near what Amazon is. Because out of 140 some odd members, we only have like 23 that shop at Ralph's or use their thing. But we get a quarterly check for $100 and some odd. It helps. But I'm looking for other places to find outside revenues because we do not wish to raise our dues again. We raised our dues the January before the pandemic hit, and that was the first dues raise in 17 years.
So I think a point there, non-dues revenue, what are the options for organizations? Richard made a comment in the chat, would like to know reserves versus annual income for small societies. What is reasonable? Certainly something to follow up on in terms of resources around budgeting and best practices there. Okay, any other topics on budget that someone would like to share?
Just on Richard, if you'd like, sometime next week or after this week, I'm happy to talk to you about organization reserves.
Great. Okay, I know we are close to our time here, but let's keep the discussion going as long as we can on reopening. Somebody like to share on reopening? All right, we got a few minutes here. So in our last closing few minutes here, Katie.
Hi, we're at a loss. We have a very low vaccination rate and our volunteers are older and don't want to be exposed. And how do we ask people to show vaccination records, wear a mask? What do we do? We're, appointment open or appointments only or limited hours. We're at a loss.
Yeah. Good points there in terms of resources, legal resources and guidance on how to reopen safely. What are the requirements? What can you and cannot do during that? Anyone else on reopening? I'm sure that's a topic for a lot of individuals, and that goes to both meetings. As we get back to in-person meetings, what are the requirements? How can you meet in person and how you handle vaccination?
We're going to attempt to remain virtual because it is such a resource savings. It's much easier to coordinate that way than it is to reserve a room, set up, tear down equipment, dependency of technology, you name it. It's much easier to do virtual. And we're planning on doing something socially separate, not a meeting.
Now, we've got about 20 seconds here. Michael, is that a question you asked of your members when you made that decision, or is it purely resource?
No, we're going at it from a board directive that we just feel, given the age of our members and given the other kind of resource constraints, we're just going to proceed that way.